It doesn't have to
Christmas
be like
Eve is
this.
supposed to
Just give
sound
me the
warm.
key.
I don't know what to
Laughter
do.
through
Let him have
thin
it, kid.
apartment walls. Distant music. The clink of glasses. Families pretending they've forgiven each other for another year. But in my apartment, Christmas sounded like nothing. No music. No lights. No tree. Just the low hum of the heater fighting against the winter, pressing its frozen palms against the windows. Outside, snow fell in slow silence, covering the city like a burial sheet. I wasn't always alone on Christmas. 3 years ago, I still had a father. 3 years ago, our names still meant something. Now it only meant questions. The television flickered in the corner, volume low. The news anchor's voice carried a tone that didn't match the holiday graphics behind her. Ongoing tensions within the city's criminal underworld. Sources suggest a fracture inside the organization run by the man many call the Underworld King. They didn't say his real name anymore. They didn't have to. In this city, everyone knew who ruled the shadows. A man who built a crime empire so vast it reached into politics, shipping docks, construction contracts, even the police union. A man who never appeared in photographs unless he wanted to. And tonight, according to rumors, that empire was cracking. I muted the TV. Not because I was scared. Because I didn't care. The underworld had nothing to do with me. Not anymore. I stood by the window, staring at the snow coating the empty street below. My building was old. The kind with dim hallways and neighbors who minded their own business because asking questions could cost you more than rent. Midnight approached quietly. The digital clock on my stove blinked 11:59 p.m. I don't know why I was watching it. Maybe because when you're alone long enough, even time feels like company. The second it turned 12 o'clock. 3 knocks. Not loud. Not rushed. 3 slow, deliberate knocks that didn't belong to a drunk neighbor or a lost delivery driver. They were controlled. Measured. Certain. My body went still before my mind did. Nobody visits at midnight on Christmas Eve. Nobody sane. For a moment, I thought maybe I imagined it. 3 more knocks. Same rhythm. Same patience. My heartbeat started syncing with the silence between them. I didn't move right away. Instead, I listened. No voices in the hallway. No shuffling. No elevator ding. Just quiet. Whoever stood outside my door wasn't nervous. They weren't in a hurry. They knew I was home. I stepped toward the door slowly, each footstep louder than it should have been. The hallway light outside cast a thin shadow beneath the doorframe. 1 pair of shoes. Polished. Silver. I swallowed. Who is it? I asked. No answer. Just breathing. Steady breathing. Then a voice came through the wood, low, smooth, almost polite. We need to talk. Not can we talk. Not please. We need to talk. I knew that voice. Even if I had only heard it once before, years ago, from across a crowded charity banquet my father dragged me to. A voice that didn't need to shout. A voice that made other men step aside without realizing they had moved. The Underworld King. The man the news whispered about. The man rivals feared more than prison. Why would he be at my door? My hand hovered over the lock. This had to be a mistake. Wrong apartment. Wrong building. Wrong life. But deep down, something colder than the winter outside told me it wasn't. The lock clicked. I opened the door just enough to see him. He stood there like the night had shaped itself into a man. Tailored black coat. No scarf. Snow resting on his shoulders as if it didn't dare melt without permission. And there, barely visible against the dark fabric, a thin line of blood along his cuff. Not his. His eyes met mine. Focused. Completely awake. Not the eyes of someone running. The eyes of someone calculating. For a second, neither of us spoke. Then he glanced down the hallway behind him before looking back at me. They'll be here soon, he said quietly. Not panicked. Not afraid. Certain. My throat tightened. Who will? He didn't answer that. Instead, he studied my face like he was confirming something. Like I matched a memory he'd carried for years. You look like him, he murmured. Like who? Before I could ask, he stepped forward. Not aggressively. Not forcefully. Just confidently, the way a king enters a room he already owns. I should have stopped him. I didn't. He walked past me into my apartment, snow trailing behind him. The air changed instantly, like the room had shrunk to make space for him. He closed the door gently. Then he locked it. The sound echoed louder than the knocking had. My pulse was loud now. Why are you here? He removed his gloves slowly, placing them on my kitchen counter as if he had done it before. His gaze drifted to the old photograph hanging near the hallway, the one I never took down. My father, smiling stiffly at a banquet. And beside him, the same man now standing in my apartment. Younger. Untouchable. Power radiating even in still image. The Underworld King tilted his head slightly. I had hoped, he said softly, you would never find out this way. Find out what? A sudden screech of tires echoed faintly from the street below. His eyes shifted toward the window. Then back to me. They think you have something that belongs to them, he said. My stomach dropped. I don't even know you, I whispered. A faint, almost humorless smile touched his lips. Oh, he replied, voice calm as snowfall, you know me. Another sound outside. Car doors. Multiple. Heavy. Precise. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Lock the lights. Stay away from the windows. My chest tightened. Are those police? He looked at me for a long moment. No, he said. They're family. And that's when I realized, whatever past I thought had died with my father, had just knocked on my door. The moment he said, they're family, the words stopped feeling safe. Family doesn't arrive in black SUVs. Family doesn't move in silence. Family doesn't make the most powerful crime boss in the city show up alone at midnight with blood on his sleeve. The apartment felt smaller now. He didn't pace. He didn't panic. He stood in the center of my living room like he was assessing property he used to own. Every movement was economical, controlled. Even the way he breathed felt deliberate. Outside, car doors shut one after another. Not slammed. Disciplined. He walked toward the window but stayed just out of sight of it. Turn off the lights, he said calmly. I didn't argue. Darkness swallowed the room, leaving only the faint blue glow of snow reflecting off the street. Shadows stretched across the walls like long fingers. You're not safe, I said quietly. If they're yours. They were, he corrected. That single word shifted everything. He wasn't being hunted by enemies. He was being hunted by his own empire. He moved toward the hallway and stopped in front of the old framed photograph. My father beside him at that charity banquet. I had asked my father about that picture once. He told me it was business. He told me some doors are safer when you don't open them. Now one of those doors was standing in my apartment. The Underworld King studied the photo for a long moment. He was loyal, he said. My throat tightened. You barely knew him. A faint glance in my direction. Not offended. Not amused. I knew him better than you did. Silence pressed between us. What do you want? I asked. He turned fully toward me now. I'm here because something was taken from me, he said. And the men outside believe you have it. I shook my head immediately. I don't have anything. I don't even know what you're talking about. He stepped closer, not threateningly, but with intention. There was a ledger. The word felt heavy. A record, he continued. Not of money. Not of shipments. Of decisions. What kind of decisions? The kind that destroy empires. Outside, footsteps crunched through snow. My pulse thudded in my ears. My father had nothing to do with your empire, I said, though the conviction in my voice felt thinner than I wanted. His expression didn't change. 3 years ago, he said, your father asked for a meeting. Not at a banquet. Not in public. In private. I stared at him. He came to me with concerns, he continued. He believed someone inside my inner circle was building something behind my back. A betrayal. The news anchor's words from earlier replayed in my mind. Fractures, tension, cracks in the organization. He was wrong, I said quickly. If he was involved in any of this, I would know. You would know. His voice was calm, but there was something sharp underneath it now. You think men like your father bring this world home to dinner? The words hit harder than I expected. He walked to my kitchen counter, running his fingers lightly over the surface like he was tracing invisible lines. "Your father discovered the ledger," he said. "Proof that someone I trusted was planning to replace me." Replace him? I tried to process that. Replace a man who controlled judges, unions, shipping ports, who decided which businesses lived and which burned down. "That's impossible," I whispered. "Nothing is impossible," he said. "Only delayed." A shadow passed across the window. Someone outside. Watching. Why come to me? I demanded. If my father found something, it died with him. That was the official story. Car accident. Late night. Slippery road. No witnesses. The Underworld King's gaze hardened slightly. "Your father didn't die in an accident." The air left my lungs. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," he replied evenly, "he refused to give me the ledger." My mind felt like it was splitting open. "You killed him?" The accusation slipped out before I could stop it. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Not anger. Not guilt. Regret. "If I had," he said quietly, "I wouldn't be standing here tonight." Another crunch of snow outside. "Closer now." "They think you have it," he repeated. "The men outside. They believe your father hid it before he died." "That's insane." "Is it?" he asked softly. "Did he leave you anything?" I froze. A memory surfaced, a small locked box in my closet. Something I never opened. Something my father told me to keep safe, no matter what. I never thought it mattered. I never wanted it to. His eyes locked onto mine. "There it is," he murmured. "That look." My silence had betrayed me. "You don't even know what you're holding," he said. "Do you?" Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, but they didn't come closer. They passed. Ignored the street entirely. "They'll tear this place apart," he continued. "And when they don't find it, they'll assume you've already given it to me." "Have I?" I asked, fear creeping into my voice. A faint, humorless smile touched his lips. "That depends on what you choose." "Choose?" "You said you built your empire on a decision," I said slowly. "Was this it?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he reached into his coat, slowly, and removed a single folded photograph. He handed it to me. It was my father. Not at the banquet. Not smiling. Arguing. With him. The timestamp in the corner read 2 nights before the accident. "You see," the Underworld King said quietly, "your father wasn't afraid of me." He stepped closer, lowering his voice to almost a whisper. He was afraid of what I was becoming. Outside, a car door shut again. "Closer." "Tonight," he said, eyes locked on mine, "you're going to find out why." And somewhere down the hallway of my building, a floorboard creaked. The floorboard creaked again. Not outside. Inside the building. Close. Too close. We both heard it. The Underworld King didn't flinch, but something shifted behind his eyes. Not fear. Calculation under pressure. "They're early," he murmured. "You said they were your people," I whispered. "Why are they hunting you?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked toward the door and pressed his ear lightly against it. Listening. Silence. A faint metallic click from the hallway. Someone checking apartment numbers. Systematically. He stepped back. "My empire," he said quietly, "was built on loyalty." Another click outside. Closer. "And fear?" I asked. A faint glance at me. "Fear maintains loyalty. It does not replace it." That sounded like something learned the hard way. "They believe I'm weak," he continued. "Because I hesitated." Hesitated to do what? His jaw tightened slightly. "To eliminate a traitor." The word lingered between us. "Someone inside your inner circle," I said. "The one my father warned you about." The pause. "Yes." Outside, boots moved down the hallway in slow, measured steps. Not rushing. Not kicking doors. They knew exactly which door they were coming to. "You didn't act," I realized. "You protected them." His eyes locked onto mine. "I raced him," he said. "Not them." The air shifted again. "This isn't about a rival," I said slowly. This is about family. His silence confirmed it. He was a boy when I took him in, he said, voice lower now. No name. No loyalty. I gave him both. And now he believes the throne should be his. A sudden, sharp knock hit the apartment door. Not polite. Not patient. Demanding. My heart slammed against my ribs. The Underworld King didn't look away from me. He thinks I've grown sentimental, he said. That I won't see what he's become. Another knock. Harder. Open the door, a voice called from outside. Familiar with authority. My stomach dropped. You said they think I have the ledger, I whispered. They do. And do I? He held my gaze. Your father trusted you, he said. That wasn't an answer. The door handle rattled once, testing. They won't shoot their way in, he said calmly. Not yet. They want confirmation. Confirmation of what? That you're on my side. The words felt like a trap snapping shut. I'm not on anyone's side. A faint, almost pitying look crossed his face. You are now. Another metallic sound outside, softer this time. The tool. They were preparing to breach quietly. You could surrender, I said quickly. Explain. If he's like a son to you. He stopped being my son the moment he sent men to kill me. Kill him. The weight of that truth hit harder than anything else tonight. You survived, I said. Barely. His hand moved slightly, adjusting his coat. That's when I saw it, a darker stain spreading beneath the fabric at his side. Not just blood on his cuff. He was wounded. You're bleeding. I'm aware. How bad? Bad enough that he thought I wouldn't make it here. Fire. You didn't come for protection, I said slowly. You came because of the ledger. Yes. And because of my father. The pause. Yes. The door lock scraped lightly from the outside. They were inside the mechanism now. You could still stop this, I said. Call him. Talk to him. The Underworld King gave a faint, tired exhale. You don't understand power, he said. Once a successor decides the king is replaceable, there is no conversation left. Another click. The deadbolt shifted half an inch. My hands started shaking. What's in that ledger? I demanded. What could destroy an empire so completely? His gaze sharpened. Names, he said. Judges. Senators. Business partners. Payments authorized without my approval. By him. Yes. And if it gets out? The empire doesn't just crack, he replied quietly. It collapses. A heavy thud hit the door. Testing its strength. You're not here to protect yourself, I realized. No. You're here to protect the empire. His eyes flickered. Or to end it. The words hung there. You'd burn it down? I asked. If it's no longer mine. The lock snapped sharply. Half broken. My pulse roared in my ears. You hesitated before, I said quickly. When my father warned you. Yes. Why? For the first time, his composure thinned. Because I loved him, he said. Not my father. The traitor. The successor. The almost son. And that hesitation, he continued, cost your father his life. The world tilted. You said you didn't kill him. I didn't. But you knew. Silence. Outside, a voice spoke again, calm, controlled. Sir, we know you're inside. This doesn't have to be violent. The Underworld King almost smiled at that. It already is. The door frame splintered slightly under pressure. They'll come in fast, he said to me. 2 from the left. 1 straight ahead. You sound certain. I trained them. My chest tightened. So what happens now? He reached slowly inside his coat. My breath caught. But instead of a gun, he pulled out a small, cold metal key. He placed it in my palm. If the ledger is where I think it is, he said quietly, this opens it. My fingers curled around the key instinctively. I never wanted this, I whispered. Neither did your father. The door burst inward with a deafening crack. Wood splintered. Shadows flooded the apartment. And in the doorway, a tall figure stepped through the dust and broken wood. Confident. His eyes met the Underworld King's. No fear. No hesitation. Only resolve. "Father," the young man said evenly. And just like that, the empire didn't just crack. It split open. "Father." The word didn't echo. It settled. Heavy. Final. Dust from the shattered door drifted through the air like ash. Splinters lay scattered across the floor between them, the old king and the chosen successor. The young man stepped fully inside my apartment. He wasn't dressed like a street thug or a reckless assassin. Tailored coat. Clean lines. Composed posture. If I passed him on the street, I would have assumed he ran a corporation, not a criminal syndicate. Behind him, 2 armed men remained in the hallway, silent and disciplined. The Underworld King didn't reach for a weapon. Neither did the son. They just looked at each other. "You shouldn't have come alone," the son said calmly. "And you shouldn't have rushed the throne," the father replied. Their voices weren't raised. That made it worse. I stood frozen near the kitchen, the small metal key still cold in my palm. My heart pounded so hard I was certain they could hear it. The son's eyes shifted to me briefly. Curious. Measuring. "So this is where you ran," he said softly. To him. "I didn't run," the older man answered. "I came for something you overlooked." A faint smile touched the son's lips. "The ledger?" he asked. So he knew. Of course he knew. "You always underestimated him," the son continued, nodding toward me. "Just like you underestimated me." The Underworld King's breathing had grown heavier. Blood was soaking through his side now, darker against the fabric. "You mistake patience for weakness," the father said. "And you mistake control for loyalty." The son stepped closer into the apartment, boots crunching over broken wood. "I built the future while you clung to the past," he said. "New alliances. New routes. New politicians who answer to me." "You built ambition," the father corrected. "Not loyalty." A tense silence stretched between them. Then the son's gaze landed on my clenched fist. "What did he give you?" he asked calmly. I didn't answer. He tilted his head slightly. "You don't even know what you're holding, do you?" The room felt like it was shrinking again. "The ledger isn't just names," the son said, voice smooth. "It's leverage. Insurance. Power that doesn't belong in civilian hands." Civilian. That word almost made me laugh. There was nothing civilian about this night. "You think exposing it will cleanse anything?" the son continued, looking back at his father. "You think burning the empire redeems you?" The older man's eyes hardened. "I think letting you lead it destroys everything I built." The son's composure cracked, just slightly. "You built it on fear," he snapped. "On outdated codes and sentimental debts. I evolved it. You corrupted it. I perfected it." The air felt electric. This wasn't just a power struggle. This was ideology. Old world versus new. Code versus ambition. "And him?" the son asked suddenly, gesturing toward me. "Was he part of your code too?" The father's silence was answer enough. "You always had a weakness for strays," the son said quietly. "That's why you never saw me clearly." The words landed like a blade. For a brief second, I saw something flicker in the Underworld King's eyes. Regret. Not for the empire. For the boy. "You killed my father," I said suddenly, the words tearing out of me before I could stop them. Both men looked at me. The son didn't look surprised. "He was inconvenient," the son said calmly. The world went still. "You ordered it," I whispered. "He was going to expose financial routes I spent years building," the son replied. "Collateral damage. Collateral damage." My father reduced to strategy. The older man's jaw tightened. "I told you," he said to me quietly. "I didn't kill him." "No," the son said. "You just hesitated long enough for me to." The confession hung in the air. Outside, faint red and blue lights flickered against the snow, distant, uncertain. Not close enough to intervene. Just close enough to remind us the world still existed. "You see," the son continued, voice steady, "this is what strength looks like. No hesitation. No weakness. And no soul," the father replied. The son's expression hardened. "Soul doesn't build empires. Neither does betrayal. A tense standoff. 3 men in a broken apartment on Christmas Eve. One empire hanging between them. The son shifted his focus back to me. "Give me the key," he said simply. His tone wasn't aggressive. It was inevitable. "You don't want this life," he continued. "You don't want enemies watching your door for the rest of your existence." "And if I refuse?" I asked, my voice shaking despite myself. The 2 men in the hallway adjusted their stance. "You won't," the son replied. The Underworld King stepped slightly in front of me. "Despite the blood. Despite the weakness. You will not touch him," he said quietly. The son's eyes narrowed. "You're bleeding out in a stranger's apartment," he said. "And you're still choosing principle over survival." "No," the father replied. "I'm choosing consequence." A flicker of confusion crossed the son's face. "You think killing me makes you king?" the older man continued. "It makes you temporary." The son's jaw tightened. "You forget," the father said softly. "I built this empire with secrets. The beat. And I didn't write all of them down." The tension shifted. For the first time, uncertainty touched the son's expression. "What did you do?" he asked quietly. The older man didn't answer him. Instead, he looked at me. And in that look, I understood something terrifying. The ledger wasn't the only weapon in this room. "You want the throne?" the father said to his son. "Take it." Then he stepped aside, leaving me fully exposed. "Give me the key," the son repeated. His hand extended toward me. Steady. Demanding. Behind him, the hallway men raised their weapons slightly. Not firing. Waiting. The blood from the father's side dripped onto the floor. Tick, tick, like a clock running out. I looked at the key in my hand. At the son. At the father. And in that frozen second, I realized something neither of them had said out loud. This was never about who ruled the empire. It was about who controlled the truth. And I was the only one holding it. The key felt heavier than metal should. It wasn't just steel. It was history. Blood. Leverage. A loaded gun disguised as something small enough to fit in my palm. "Give it to me," the son repeated. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Behind him, his men stood steady in the hallway, shadows with triggers. Outside, faint red and blue lights flickered against the snow, still too far away to matter. The Underworld King swayed slightly beside me. Blood had soaked through his coat, dripping onto my floor in slow, deliberate taps. Tick, tick, tick. Midnight was running out. "You think this ends with the ledger?" the father said quietly. "It ends with control," the son replied. "It ends with you becoming exactly what I tried to prevent." The son's jaw tightened. "You tried to prevent evolution." "No," the father said. "I tried to prevent rot." Silence swallowed the room. The son extended his hand closer to me. "You don't belong in this," he said calmly. "Your father made a mistake. Don't repeat it." "My father trusted him," I shot back, nodding toward the older man. "And he died for it," the son replied without hesitation. The truth of that slammed into my chest. He died for it. But not in the way I'd believed for 3 years. I looked at the Underworld King. For the first time since he knocked on my door, he didn't look like a ruler. He looked human. Wounded. Tired. Haunted. "You hesitated," I said to him quietly. "Yes. And that hesitation got my father killed." His eyes didn't leave mine. "Yes." The honesty cut deeper than any denial would have. "And now?" I asked. "Now I don't." The son gave a small, humorless laugh. "You're too late for that." The hallway men shifted slightly. One checked his watch. The father noticed. "They don't plan to leave with just the ledger," he said. The son didn't deny it. "You're bleeding," the son said flatly. "Even if I walk away, you won't survive the night." "That was always the cost," the father replied. Everything tonight had a price." I opened my hand slightly, letting the key glint under the dim reflection of snowlight. 3 futures stood in front of me. Give it to the sun, and let the new empire rise, colder and more ruthless than before. Give it to the father, and help him burn it all down in one final act of vengeance. Or keep it, and become something neither of them expected. You think you're choosing between us, the son said quietly, reading my hesitation. You're not. You're choosing between order and chaos. The father exhaled slowly. Don't listen to that, he said. He calls domination order. And you call nostalgia honor, the son snapped. The tension snapped tight. Enough, I said. Both of them went silent. The power in the room shifted. For the first time tonight, they weren't speaking over me. They were waiting. My father died because both of you wanted control, I said. One to keep it, one to take it. The son's expression hardened. The father said nothing. You talk about loyalty, I continued, looking at the older man. You talk about evolution, I said to the son. But neither of you talks about consequence. Outside, a police siren wailed closer this time. Not passing. Approaching. The hallway men exchanged a quick glance. Time was collapsing in on us. Last chance, the son said, extending his hand one final time. The Underworld King's breathing grew rougher. If he was going to make a move, it had to be now. Instead, he stepped back. Not surrendering. Not retreating. Just removing himself from the space between me and his son. The gesture was small. But it said everything. He wasn't going to decide this. I was. The son saw it too. A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face for the first time. You don't have the stomach for this, he said to me quietly. You're not built for power. No, I replied. I'm built for truth. And with that, I moved. Not toward the son. Not toward the father. But toward the kitchen. The small locked box in the cabinet above the refrigerator. The one I had ignored for 3 years. I grabbed it. The son's men stepped forward instantly, weapons raising. Stop, the son ordered sharply. I slid the key into the lock. It clicked. The sound felt louder than the gunshots that hadn't happened yet. Inside, papers, flash drives, photographs, and a second envelope sealed in red. The father's eyes widened slightly. He didn't know about that. Neither did the son. What is that? The son demanded. I opened the envelope. A handwritten letter fell into my hand. My father's handwriting. My chest tightened as I skimmed the first line. If you're reading this, it means I failed to stop what's coming. The room seemed to tilt. Outside, tires screeched. Police doors slammed. Real sirens now. Close. Very close. The son's composure fractured. You called them? He demanded. I looked up slowly. No. The father stared at the flashing lights reflecting in the window. A slow, almost peaceful understanding crossed his face. You did, the son said to him. The older man didn't answer. He didn't need to. He hadn't come here for protection. He hadn't come for revenge. He had come for witness. The hallway men backed up instinctively as shouting echoed up the stairwell. Police! Don't move! The son looked at me one last time. Not angry. Not panicked. Calculating. This isn't over, he said quietly. Maybe he was right. Maybe empires don't end in one night. Maybe they just change hands. As boots thundered down the hallway and red lights painted the snow outside, I stood there holding the ledger in one hand and my father's final words in the other. And in that final breath before the door filled with uniforms, I realized something chilling. Midnight hadn't ended. It had only just begun.